Welcome to Financial Education for the Nation. My name is Warren Shute and I'm here with the delightful Paul today. How are you?
Hi Warren, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Brilliant. It's Financial Planning Week. It's my favourite week of the whole year. It's when the financial planning community really pulls together and helps and reaches out and helps all those people around the UK. So we're offering like free workshops, phone calls, meetings, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in financial planning, sort of dipping your toe in the water but never sort of done anything more, go along to the CISI Wayfinder website or Google search a financial planner, and you want a certified financial planner, and hopefully they're involved and they'll be able to give you some introduction to financial planning.
Okay, great, thanks. I think that's important, and given what we're going to talk about today, I think there's people at both ends of the spectrum that it's relevant for, and couldn't be better timing in terms of being able to hopefully go and get some advice about things.
Okay, great.
I want to talk about the bank of mum and dad, as it's commonly known, where older parents are helping out adult but still younger children with things like maybe business ventures, education, buying a home, which, as we all know, is increasingly difficult for people coming out of the education system. What are your views on this, on the parents helping out?
It's a tricky one. It's a really tricky one to answer because of the emotion and love you have with your children. I have two wonderful children who I love dearly. But there's a reason when you're on an aeroplane, they say, put your own oxygen mask on first before you secure your children. And I think it's Southwest Airlines that said, if you have two children, look at their earnings potential before you secure theirs. But genuinely, truly, it's a case of secure yourself first. So if you're listening to this and you have surplus capital or surplus income and you want to support and help your children, then great. But if you haven't got your own house in order yet, you shouldn't really be helping other people out. You know, you really got to I don't know where the expression came from, but I work on an analogy, now, then, them. And what that really means is, let's secure our financial now. Let's get financially organized now. Let's make sure our emergency cash is in place. Let's make sure our debt's gone. Let's make sure we've got a will and a power of attorney and things like that. Then is let's make sure we're planning for our future. So our financial future looks okay. We're paying our mortgages down. We have a retirement plan in place. We're looking forward to a rosy financial future. And then them. Who around me, not only my loved ones, but my community, can I reach out and help? If you have more money than necessary, why not reach out and help people? Help your children, help your grandchildren, help your community. But it's got to be in that order. Now, then, them. It can't be, let's just go and help them. Because when you get older, if you haven't secured your income and your income finishes when you decide to officially retire, you're going to have a problem. And then you might become a liability on others, and they may not want that.
Okay, and I think that's an important point, especially when it's frustrating as the kids. We want to get out, we want to get our first home, and it's difficult to do that, and maybe mum and dad can help. But it's important to realise that typically we're not looking that far into the future when we're 21, 25 years old, whatever it might be. We've got to recognise that in our parents as well, they've got to have that time first. That now, then, them applies both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's also going to sign, if you're approaching retirement, you've put your time in. You've earned your retirement. You've done your 30, 40 years of hard graft. And for a lot of you, it was hard graft. And you went through some really tough times where you went without. You went without holidays. You went without the luxuries. So it's your reward. It's your time to enjoy life. Now, if they're called meta programs. If your preferences as an individual are others as opposed to self, and what I mean by that is when nurses generally have a meta program, a psychology of their being, of they think of others before themselves. They're always thinking of others and helping others. If that's yourself, I can think of my mum as a classic example, and my wife as well. They think of others a lot more than they do themselves. Then you naturally want to help others. Okay, and if that brings you joy, then that's fine. But don't miss out on your own bucket list, your own dreams and aspirations, and what you always wanted to do, especially if you've been working your life and you're now going into retirement age. You know, it's important to make sure that you're not going to get a second chance at this. Okay, there's one run through. You're not going to get a second chance at this life, at least. So let's make sure we make the most of it and enjoy it.
Okay, I want to look at a couple of scenarios then. Firstly, where, okay, as the parents, they've got everything together, they're confident in their future planning, and they're in a position where they want to help now. Are there any hints or tips you could give on how best to go about that? What's the best way to do so?
Okay, so typically the main three reasons parents help their children out are education fees, house purchase, or business venture. I would say typically you could throw wedding in there, but most of the time most parents would help with the wedding. But generally those three are the main three things. I'm a full believer of education, whether it's traditional education or whether it's alternative education, because I think once we grow as individuals, our paradigm, our mindset shifts and we become better people. So I'm not here saying you have to go to university. I don't believe that is the solution, especially the cost of it. But I do believe that you should continually be educating yourself and developing yourself. So whether that's just reading or going on to courses. So if you, as a parent, you want to help and you can afford it, by all means, definitely improve and educate. So you're buying long term when you educate, as opposed to buying a commodity which will go out of fashion. If you're looking at a home, a house purchase, I'm very much about protecting the assets within the family unit. So if you were to outright gift your son or daughter a lump sum of money to say, here you go, use this for the house purchase, if their relationship in the future were to fail, then that gift potentially is lost outside of the family unit. So this is where using trust can really protect and become a value for your family. So you working with a good financial planner, the financial planner can help you set up a trust so that that money that you gift to your son or daughter can be retained. So if at a later date that relationship were to fail, that money is owned within the family still. And I think, you know, using those two things there, what's the third thing I said? So I said
Business.
Business. And I think with a business venture, it's got to be a sensible business venture. And I think you've got to be very careful on if your son or daughter, as much as you may think they're wonderful, most first businesses fail. So you really have to make sure you support a sensible business venture and not just go backing any old thing that they come up with. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think you want your son or daughter to go and succeed and win in life, but we value what we earn in life. We value what we've worked for. And I look around at some of the things that I've earned and worked for and certainly waited for, and I value those a lot more than things that were possibly just gifted to me or I just inherited, because I didn't earn the respect from them. And that respect goes both ways. If your son or daughter has earned the right to receive this money through doing certain hard work and putting the effort in, they are going to appreciate it a lot more whether you just give them an outright gift.
Okay, and just sticking with that business venture, just one more final point on that. If I haven't yet secured my future, but I do think that this is a genuinely great business venture, could I not think, okay, rather than invest my money in the stock market for the next 10 years, I think this business is going to give me better returns?
No.
Is that again all about how comfortable you are with risk, or you're just not a fan?
No. And the reason being is most small businesses will fail. You know, why do you think your son or daughter is going to be the next Bill Gates or, run the next Netflix? It's the probability of that is not, you're living in the cuckoo land. You have to secure your now. You have to get financially well organized. You have to get your basics in order, your will, your power of attorney, your life insurances and things. And then you have to secure your own future. You have to put money away, and you will need more money than you expect in retirement. And a real quick ready reckoner would be you take your monthly outgoing times them by 300. Okay, so if you think you need £1,000 a month, you need at least £300,000 in retirement. It's a lump sum. So 2,600. That's a real quick ready reckoner for you to say off the cuff of my head, the rule of 300. Just keep that in mind. And calculating that backwards from, okay, well, if I want that at 65, 68, wherever it might be, discounted back now, you're going to put a lot of money away. One of the articles, one of these sessions I would like to do is to sort of give you some guidance of how much money you should have at each stage of your life, to give you some kind of indication of what sort of post you should be on. But secure your own future first. And that starts with, as a minimum, the first working hour of every working day. So 12.5% of your gross income should be put away into pensions. That is once your unsecured debt is gone. And then if you can then increase it from that, so if you're a late starter, then you really should be looking to put more than 12.5% away. And I know this isn't easy. It's easier said than done, but it's necessary. It is necessary. So I do respect if your money coming in, your money going out is tight, you need to make cuts back and put the effort in to try and put as much money away. If you can't hit 12.5%, don't do nothing. Do as much as you possibly can afford. And step one would be to join your workplace pension. And this kind of comes back to the question about helping our children. One of the things is we want to help our children, give them money and stuff like that. But remember, they don't have the benefit of these final salary pension schemes that a lot of the baby boomers had. But they do now have access to the workplace pension. So auto-enrollment will mean that soon 8% of their income, basic salary, will be going away into pensions for them, so that when they get to retirement, they'll have that. So that's the first 8% of the 12.5 that I was referring to. Now we've only got to find 4.5% on top of that. So they're going to inherit, lots of baby boomers, lots of you older generation or more mature generation relative to the younger ones are going to own their own home. And most of you will have your home paid off by the time you get to retirement. So there'll be the inheritance of that for them as well. So it's a quandary. In doing these videos, it's tricky because I'm talking to such a wide audience, okay? And we're getting some fantastic feedback, so thank you for that. But if you are wealthy, yes, let's start gifting assets or money to our children, grandchildren, because it's lovely to see them enjoy it during your lifetime. But if you're just making ends meet and you haven't secured your future self, let's got to make sure we secure our future self first. So now, then, them.
Okay, great, thanks. And I mentioned two scenarios. The second scenario then that I just wanted to cover off is the idea of equity release. So perhaps I've got more than enough for my retirement, but maybe a lot of it is tied up currently in property. What's your thinking when it comes to equity release potentially to help out the kids?
We have this discussion often, I won't say regular, but often, a number of times a year with clients. And my rule of thumb is, if you want to release equity from your home, the most cost-efficient way of doing it is to move. Sell your property and downsize. That is the cheapest way of doing it. You release the capital tax-free, and then you can then do as you wish with that money, whether that money is earmarked for nicer cruises or securing your long care fee needs potentially in the future, or for making gifts to your children, whatever it might be. That's the cheapest way of doing it. However, I do recognize that when we're in a property for some time, we enjoy it and we get comfortable there. And the thought of moving, the upheaval of change is just too much. And therefore, we have a number of people who say, no, I want to stay where I am. I'm more comfortable where I am. I don't want to move house. Is there another alternative? And that's where equity release, or I sometimes refer to it as like they do in the US, is a reverse mortgage comes into account. And that's when you can borrow a chunk or a percentage of the value of your home. And then rather than making monthly payments to the mortgage company, the monthly payments are added to the amount of money you borrow. So round figures, if you borrowed £50,000, instead of paying roughly £500 a month, that £500 a month would be added. So at the end of the first year, you would owe the £50,000 plus roughly the interest on that £50,000. Let's say it's £4,000 or £5,000, and then it will roll on to the following year. So every year you'll see your balance increasing. Now, if they are a member of it used to be called Shute, but the association name's changed now, the Equity Release Association, the governing body, then you have a no equity guarantee in there as well, which means that the amount of money you borrow plus all the interest will never exceed the value of your home, so that you can't be the wrong way around, as it were, when you pass away. But in the rates of interest on these equity release mortgages now have significantly come down. So they're a lot more competitive today than they were 10 years ago. So yes, option one, downsize, move, find somewhere that's very comfortable within reaching distance of amenities, so you can walk to the shops. If later today you stop driving, make sure that the space area is easy enough for you to manage. That's the best idea. But if you don't want to downsize and move, then equity release or a reverse mortgage is the second best option. And they're becoming a lot more competitive these days.
Okay, and just very briefly then to finish off, if that's an option, where does one start? Because you see all these adverts about release the value of your home, you see them on TV and the newspapers online. Just briefly, how does one start to find the right kind of thing? What should we be looking out for?
I'm a massive believer in independence. And I use the analogy with clients. If you ask a butcher for nutritional advice, they're going to tell you meat's the answer. Okay? You've got to go to someone who's not tied to a particular provider. And when you see these adverts on the TV, they're generally mass scale. So they're working all over the country, and they're often limited to one or just two providers. So seek out independent advice. If you don't have anyone to go to, message me. We don't regularly get involved with the equity release market, but I do have a number of people who are very, very competent and who are independent as well. So we would very happily refer your details onto them. And there's no kickback for us. It's just a case of making sure you get the right outcome. So if you're seeking equity release advice, make sure the individual you're speaking to is independent. That's the key thing.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Great. Well, look, great to speak to you, Paul. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch up next week. Bye-bye.